Welcome to the UpstreamLife.com. I'm your founder and editor, Vishal Krishna. I'm at Build at the Web3 Summit today, sponsored by Lumos Partners and the BuildersTribe, of course. I've got with me Rohit Goyal, the founder of JediSwap. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for hosting.
I love the word Jedi, man. It makes me excited. And hence I'm excited like this now.
Yeah.
What do you do as a Jedi?
Yeah, I am just Grandmaster, I guess.
You're a Grandmaster. What does a Grandmaster do with
It teaches the ways of the Force. It teaches the ways of Web3.
Yes, I understand that it's about solving many things with many individuals without really being connected directly to you.
Yeah.
They just come in at a time when you need them,
Yes.
and they help you like a Jedi.
Exactly.
Right? So let's get into the technicalities. What is JediSwap? Really?
Yeah, so it's a decentralized exchange on a blockchain called Starknet, which is basically a layer 2 technology.
Yes.
And we are trying to bring Web3 or DeFi to everyone in the world. So there are two elements to JediSwap. One as a product,
Yes.
which, as I told you, it's a decentralized exchange where you can exchange one asset to another without giving me control of your assets at any point of time. And second is like it's a DAO, it's a permissionless organization, which means we do not have a single employee in the whole organization. So we are creating this framework of coordination where you can coordinate based on incentives instead of a legal paperwork where you have obligation.
This is interesting, Rohit. I mean, this is so early in its time, and it's a great time to experiment. India, it turns out, 3 million engineers, and we always say that there's very little access to good talent.
Yeah.
But this is just decentralizing that talent, right?
Yes.
Let's take use cases, because that's what makes people listening to my show, mostly CEOs and the C-suite, people older, and they believe that the decentralized world may sometimes be a joke, but it is not. Let's take examples. Let's say a client has many vendors, but they need somebody to build something on the engineering layer. I can access talent to build this engineering layer, but with transparency, correct? How does that work?
Yeah, so if you think about coordination, like I don't know which organization you have in mind.
Let's say automobile, for the fun of it, or take any industry. Retail can be manufacturing, any type of organization.
Okay, so like I'm going to just give a very high level imaginary scenario.
Because it's a lot more complex.
Yeah, because I don't know, I don't work in them, I don't know the nitty-gritties. But at every part of the thing, like you will have a chain of decision makers.
Correct.
And a process where one thing goes from one person to the next, or from next to the next. So at each entity, like you might have a set of people, like in retail, maybe like it's just putting the price on a package, just to give an example, right? So you might have 10,000 people doing just that. So that's one stack, and all of their responsibilities is same. Like you have to do this part, which is very standardized, it has very tight specification as far as I can imagine.
It's true. It has standards, and they stick to those standards. Correct.
And then their job is to do that and pass it to the next person. I'm sure the next person will check if the previous one did X job, assign some kind of metric to it if this was done. If it is not, it will send back probably to some chain. Otherwise, it will pass on to the next step, right? So now in all of this, you have some work where you can give it some parameters. Like you already have the parameters, right? So you can create, let's say, a point system that if you do this, then you earn these many points.
Right.
The next person approves, like you did your part, so now your points are finalized. So now you are accumulating points in a time frame, like let's say in a week, right? So now every person in this chain, in this stack A, have some points. So now, first of all, you know on a percentile basis who did how much. Like if somebody has 1,000 points versus somebody has 100 points, like you know this person is working really hard, this person is doing good, and like maybe they don't want to do, like it's fine, like it's their choice, however much they want to do.
This is so interesting. That means many people can attempt the problem,
exactly,
but the person who performs it efficiently gets rewarded.
Exactly. So now if you have this point system, like imagine a scenario where you can directly somehow attach the incentives to these points. So let's say you put these points on a smart contract. In a very noob language, you just put these points in a database, which nobody now can change, or it has certain rules which is visible, like only this person can change it. Doesn't have to be like nobody can change.
It's interesting you mentioned database, because the earlier experiments on smart contracts was the Hyperledger, which is sort of like a database.
Yes.
But this is beyond that,
yes.
right? Do you want to care to explain that?
Yes. I mean, like, what is blockchain? What is decentralization? It's making a database in a distributed manner and bringing the rules you have to change that database or read that database transparent. It's visible to everyone. It could be like some points are given in this stack where people were putting prices. The next person, you have, let's say, their wallet. So you can say, okay, now Rohit has the permission to approve these points to these people. So that's part of the process. Everyone knows that, like, this person will be approving. Once it is approved, now it is non-modifiable. Or maybe like it is modifiable in a very new way of rule where, like, if let's say you give it level 1, level 2, level 3, only now level 3 can change it, not level 2. So now you kept something which is immutable, which cannot be changed.
This is interesting, Rohit. I mean, there are no need of contracts anymore because the data is there to see.
Exactly.
And you have to compensate.
Exactly.
And even the one with the permission has to do it. Otherwise, you can ask for compensation fairly, and the system says that yes, this person needs to be
correct.
That's interesting, right? And okay, when did you start this? Has it been 1 year, 2 years?
So JediSwap, I started, I think roughly around end of 2020, or it was called something else before that. We started with something else. Maybe I can just
please take. I love history. I'm a man who loves history, so you should tell me, why did you start? You were doing very well in Mudrex. Cool.
So like
you were doing very well in Mudrex.
Yeah. So let me first give you my background a little bit, which might maybe connect the dots. So I did my engineering from IIT Bombay in 2012. Since early on, since my second year in graduation, I started building companies. And as a student, when you build companies, you do not think about VCs, especially I was building that in 2010, like there was no VCs or anything like that. Probably like the closest people I knew during those times were Bhavish from Ola,
2012 time frame, all of us got to know them.
Yeah, Jishan Hayati, he's well known. Like these are the kind of guys I knew, from which I understood like what is venture capital and all of that. So I built companies by gathering people who I just tried to sell them an idea, like my imagination, if you think about it. Right?
Basically, collaborative.
Yeah, it's like this is the imagination. Do you also have the same imagination? Like only if you will also share the same imagination, then you will like to work together. And only if you like me as a person, you will like to work with me.
That's a trust factor,
right?
Yes.
So there was no money factor. Like I never talked about money first. I only talked about this. So from there, like I built a mobile gaming company after that. Like my first company was called sabjiwala.com, where I was selling fruits and vegetables in 2010.
That was all the rage then when this is the early Big Basket times.
Big Basket came in 2012.
Yeah, correct. I know. There was about 30 odd startups like this, or 40. I don't know the money. But you tried that also.
Exactly. I realized I don't love operations, to be honest, but I love tech and I love humans. I understand how they think, like consumers in a way. So that led me to...
That's a rarity, believe me. Engineers should think like that.
Yep, maybe. Like this is just me, like me discovering myself in some ways. So I realized like games are pretty good because they touch a lot of humans. So I can build games, and games are very psychological in nature. Like you have to bring virality, you have to understand what someone likes about a game. So I built this gaming company again without any VC, without any full-time employees. So I just like gathered people who liked, like we want to do this just for the fun. And with that mechanism, I scaled it to 4 or 5 million users. So that was a good experiment.
Was this an app kind of a thing?
Yeah, it's hyper casual games, very casual, like not too much graphics, little bit of graphics, physics.
Low data consumption.
All the rage there. 1 megabyte size.
So it can be downloadable. They don't consume too much ROM or RAM in the phone, right? Yes.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you've been through that grind and then ended up in blockchain. I would love to know how.
I was doing this, and then like multiple times I heard about Bitcoin, once in 2012, then in 2014, and both the time I heard about it because it shoot up in price. In 2017, I moved to Bangalore, or end of 2016, and I met some friends who were investing in Bitcoin. So I just asked them like why, what it is. And they told me like it's something like a permissionless currency or like a decentralized currency, and that intrigued me for the first time. So I started reading the white paper of Bitcoin, And at the same time, I was reading this book called Sapiens, which talks a lot about human coordination.
I think in 2017,
yeah.
all of us did the same thing. We read Sapiens.
Yes.
I love that book.
Yeah.
And we read Satoshi's paper.
Yes.
Right?
It was the perfect mix, right?
Yes.
Satoshi was creating currency, which is currency is just trust, right? And Sapiens was talking about coordination.
Yes.
And I realized like throughout my life, I was just doing coordination. Like I didn't raise money, I didn't pay anyone, but we were coordinating. So with that, I realized like this is the big idea. Like Bitcoin is just one application, but it will actually help humans coordinate in a more efficient way. Like that's where it will go.
The technology.
The technology. Yes. And as a way, I decided to like just jump straight in. Like I just read white papers, all the white papers in the 2017 era, like all the shitty ones as well, which are now closed down.
That's one thing on the internet. There's quite a few of them. I got it. But you built a good company.
Yeah. So by end of 2017, I realized that if we want to bring more people aware about this, the first thing is like you make them invest into this. So how do we help more people invest in crypto? So we started Mudrex with 3 of my other friends whom I knew from college. So with Mudrex, like we then started building a platform which enables people to invest in crypto, helping these answers like which currencies to invest, when to invest, these kind of things.
And this story is played out really well. I mean, the government now, after initial ban, allows people, there's a 30% tax slab, but it's somewhere, moving somewhere.
Exactly. So like we did that, we got into YC, we were probably the first Indian crypto company to go into YC.
YC batch what, 17, 18?
It's 19.
19, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So to be honest, like we didn't have much progress since till 3 years. It was bear market till 2020.
It's tough.
Then again, like after COVID, things started changing. That's when we raised a bunch of funds. And we raised funds from really, really good people as well. But like by end of 2020, I started going back to the same problem. Like, what am I doing in my life? Like, I'm building a centralized company.
The engineer in you started asking these questions.
Yes, I'm building a centralized company. Everyone is like depositing money here. So like, is it what I came to do for? Like I went back to the roots. Like I came because I thought about coordination.
So you were about humans and like you said, permissionless was key to you.
Exactly.
Immutability, transparency in the right sense.
Yes.
Can people collaborate? Was something that you always had in mind?
Yes.
Okay. Great.
So with that, I decided like, that's when DeFi happened. And I realized like I lost this progress in last 3 years while building a company. Because when you build a company, you get busy with a lot of things, raising funds, hiring people and all of that. And in this time, like DeFi happened. So it brought back me to the same problem statement. Like it's all about, in DeFi, I saw it's all about community. Like everyone was distributing tokens to a community or early users. So it went back to the same incentive problem, coordination problem. So I thought like, okay, DeFi is really good. It can change the world. But how many people are using it? At that point of time, it was 1 lakh people, 100,000 people, 200,000 people. So I thought like, how do we make it accessible to billions of people? So I started creating this community called Mesh Finance.
Oh, it started as a community.
It started, that's what we realized, like it's always community first. So let's start as a community first. Let's not start with the product even.
And it was just open to community to build on it on top of what you're
providing. It was very, very vague. I just pushed a blog post like, this is how I think like future will evolve. Like
in
this
finance?
Is how in finance, why DeFi will make sense, why everyone will be using DeFi, and how it turns into information sharing at the end of the day, like how as humans we are passing information.
Before we quickly move into Mesh, and then because this is very key, right? People now will be wondering, DeFi is decentralized finance, of course. We are all used to banks, which is centralized, which basically means they control the interest rates. They also control amount of money in circulation. But what is decentralized finance? For the younger audience, they have to read about it.
Yes.
Right? Can you quickly tell us that and why you wanted to start Mesh?
Yeah. So like if you think about Bitcoin, like what is the inception of Bitcoin? The inception of Bitcoin came from 2008 when Lehman Brothers and all these big banks crashed. Why they crashed? Because there was a lot of leverage in the ecosystem. And governments backed out all those banks. So what happened because of that? A lot of people lost jobs. A lot of people, financial market completely crashed. So governments saved the banks, but who paid the price? It was the taxpayers. It was the audience, right? The currency.
A lot of their, in America especially, a lot of the pension savings. India was not hit much because we're a very young nation in terms of, we had very well protected ecosystem. Financially, the regulator did a good job. But in the US, people's pensions were wiped out. Their housing rates were gone. Some people had to sell everything. and the government refinanced the whole thing and saved a bunch of companies also. You're right.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So whenever governments do that, governments are deciding who gets rich and who gets poor. Because if I'm printing new money and I'm giving it to you, everyone else who had the same amount of money now are poor because they have less % of the money. And since I give you the new money, you are richer.
And you're financing yourself a lot more.
Exactly.
You're in debt again.
Exactly. Yes. So that's why Satoshi Nakamoto created a currency which could not be controlled by anyone. Like it should be a neutral currency. So if you think about it, that's the first decentralized financial application because currency is the very backbone of the whole financial ecosystem.
On top something that offers stability was the key.
Yes. So on top of currency, then you have banks, like where you deposit, lending and borrowing happens. Then you have exchanges where you trade assets. Then you have yields, like bonds, where you invest, bonds, etc. And that's how the whole stack happens. And in each part, there are central intermediaries, like whom you trust. If they make a mistake, you lose your money. So DeFi, decentralized finance, is basically to change that, to remove central intermediaries in all these layers.
This is fantastic. That means if a trader gets now questioned saying, why was this strategy like this? And the community tries to protect you from an ultimate loss, which is wonderfully said. You know, that's the objective of decentralized finance. Correct?
Exactly.
Yes. So that happened, really? Is it happening now?
I mean, like, if you think from internet perspective, like, it started happening in 1990s.
Okay.
I'm sure, like, I first used internet maybe like 2007, something like
2007, yes.
Right? So we got it like 17 years later compared to some people had it. So that's the technological adoption. So it's happening. Today, like, as I told you, like in 2020, we had 100K users in DeFi. Today, we might have 5 million or 10 million.
Which is interesting. And there's a community. And that's what the mesh was for, right?
Yes.
And the problem statement there was, what did you say?
Yeah, so problem statement was like, how do we bring it to billions of people? Like, how do we make DeFi accessible to billions of people?
So it was a problem and the mission.
Yes, it was a mission. So the call to action was, if you also believe about that mission, come join this Telegram group. We will talk how to solve this problem. And a lot of interesting people joined. Like some of those people actually grew a lot in their own trajectories. Like there is a friend of mine, Vishal Kankani, who then joined Multicoin Capital. He is basically doing a lot of investment today. But like it was a brain power.
He supported you.
He supported, right? Yes. He was part of the early community. Like when it was just a Telegram group, nothing else. We used to.
How big is JediSwap now?
Today, like on Discord, we have 100,000 people.
Sharing engineering ideas mostly.
You can say like on Discord, like anyone can join, so it's very low friction. If you think from contributors' perspective, like someone who even talk about JediSwap, it could be in the range of 5 to 10,000. And someone who invest meaningful time, like it could be 1 hour, like in a month even, or like 5 hours in a month, then like 500 such people.
Okay, a couple of interesting ideas they put in there. You know, as at this point of time, you're just testing waters. Of course, the last 3 years, you're just rewarding them with a few, tokens or whatever you're rewarding them with. I want you to tell us that where is this going now? Now, I know you would have now focused on how can I monetize this because it's real. People are contributing to problems. Were there interesting problems put in, and did people solve those?
Yes. So
you want to give us use cases?
For sure. Like the first use case we started with was like there was like a lot of platform where people was trying to earn yield. But if you use those platforms, you cannot even understand. Like there will be a token name called YCUSDC XYZ. Like
it's like a code.
Like what is that? How do I
It's like cryptography, man.
Exactly. It's hard to understand what is the reward and what is the risk. And as humans, that's the only thing you care about. Like what is the reward I'm getting and what is the risk I'm taking. So we try to create a yield protocol, a yield platform where you just see 3 buttons, low risk, medium risk, high risk, that you can earn 5% from this, 10% from this, 20% from this. You can lose 5% from this, 20% from this, 50% from this.
People solve that?
So we built that. We had some early use base.
Interesting. That would be interesting for stock markets today, man.
Yeah, it was just a simple yield. Like you just deposit a stable currency, like USD.
For example, you can apply this to bond markets, which are so big.
Exactly.
Interesting. So you got that problem solved too?
We tried to solve that problem. So then we realized we built it on Ethereum and it was super expensive. So how do I deposit $100 into that if I have to pay just $10 in fees? It does not matter. So from there, we started exploring scaling solutions.
And now the layer 2 solutions.
Exactly.
Yes.
So that's when we found Starknet, which is one of the scaling solution. And we started building the same product on Starknet. And then we realized like to build that, we need a decentralized exchange. And then we pivoted to building a decentralized exchange on Starknet.
So for those of them who are used to centralized things, it's like a cloud, but you can have your own public cloud with a virtual network within a public cloud, correct?
Yes.
Is that the good analogy?
You think about it like a distributed cloud.
Yes, it is a distributed cloud. Yes, it's a hybrid.
Exactly.
It's interesting, but in your case, it's truly now becoming immutable, transparent.
Exactly.
You are building.
Exactly.
It's also serverless in many ways. Right?
There is no server.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Now tell me, for those of us, for my audience, again, I told you, older, they have to get into problem statements like these and work with people like you. Simply because why? Is the world going to be better? Is that a good way of putting it? Or would you say it would be more efficient for a business to be more transparent? Because people will then go buy their stock or be even more loyal to them. What would you advise?
So I try to think about humans as computers. Like think all of us are computers.
Correct.
And we build as a collective computer. So the collective computer's output is how quickly I send information I have to you. That is first part, information transfer. And second is how quickly we can compute all those information and produce an output, right? If you think from information perspective, that's all about
Humans are a community, they work on collaboration
Exactly.
faster.
So knowledge and then using that knowledge.
Incentive mechanisms on top of that.
Exactly. So
you were right. I mean, just hold that. Don't forget that thought. Somebody was in a large corporation, an analogy, somebody building a health platform in a corporate was using, in a large tech corporate, was using 300 people. A startup saw the technology and said, I could build it with 5 people. It's interesting. It's an interesting analogy on efficiency.
Exactly.
So you're saying these 5 people could have been rewarded a lot more than the 300?
For sure.
So because that's the nature of the world also, right? You want to reward those who are quick, nimble, fast. So you were saying something. I'm sorry. I had to
so I was just saying like it's like this system, the computer network becomes more efficient as you have the information transparent for everyone. Because if I have some knowledge and you also get some knowledge, you can use that knowledge to produce something. And if we can share the computational bandwidth, we can come up with a better outcome.
I agree with you. And also within the 300, if what those 5 people could solve, I'm sure everything couldn't have been solved by those 5 members. They could still work with the 300 to say, can you solve something faster for me? It's a great human network. Right?
Exactly.
But what are the bottlenecks for this, Rohit? I mean, honestly, what's happening? Misunderstood?
No, I think like in generally, like first of all, great, like the whole vision, what crypto can push for is not understood. Like it's limited to probably tokens, sometimes bad actors doing Ponzi schemes.
You said it's a Ponzi scheme that drives people away, yes.
If you start thinking about crypto as coordination tool, like the whole thing changes. Like you can create incentive mechanism which enables me to share my knowledge with you. That's what you will want. Like you will like to reward me for if I give you some knowledge. Similarly, like if you create something out of that, like the system should reward you for using that. So if we have fair and transparent models of incentives of coordination, then like as a humanity, we can create better outcomes.
Okay, quickly on a throughput model, people say that, look, if I move to a blockchain, the throughput rate is very low. I have already invested in from the older technology to clouds now. How can I now get this kind of a system? Can it integrate with? It can, right?
Yeah, it can. So it goes a little bit technical. Like
please.
Like think about trust. What is trust? Like you will trust your brother much more than you trust me because you don't know me, right? So if your brother sends you $10, you do not require it to happen on Ethereum network. But maybe if I send you $10, you want me to send it on Ethereum network. So in one transaction, it didn't took any bandwidth. In one transaction, it took some bandwidth. So that's how networks will evolve, the blockchain networks, like based on what are the trust assumptions. So you solve it by fractaling. Like wherever you have high trust, you do not need to have higher number of nodes. That means like it could be faster. Some things could happen on one server. Some things could happen on 5 servers. Some things need to happen on Ethereum, which has hundreds of thousands of servers. For an example, like if you want to hold how much currency is there in the ecosystem, then you want it to be on Bitcoin or Ethereum, which nobody can change. But if I just want to pay you like within one organization, we can have a separate network. That's where layer 2s, layer 3s, all these different mechanisms come in.
This is fantastic. So you're saying an integration of the old and the new can happen?
Exactly, yeah.
So don't think about it as some form of technology that's a Ponzi scheme. But think about the technology as something that's enabling you to to get the transparency ecosystem going faster and better.
Exactly.
These experiments are happening all over the world, bits and pieces. And a lot of people look at it as old versus new, but in fact the old can embrace this very fast.
I think it's evolution, this is naturally about to happen. Like if you think about back in the time, it used to be just kings and everyone else had the same lifestyle.
Now kings are just constitutional monarchs.
If you will put some king in today's world, like you are probably living better than a king, like you have all the facilities. So it's evolution, like the information, decision making, all of that will become more and more distributed over time.
Okay, and is JediSwap available? I mean, obviously, can corporate people meet you? Do you discuss? Do you give talks? I know you talk to a lot of these startups, and those names are behind us. And you chat. You do fireside chats with them. But do you think corporates have to be with JediSwap? They can sign up and they can put in their problems there.
Yeah. So I don't particularly think at this stage JediSwap as a product is relevant for corporates because it's a very small set. Like it's again technology curve, right?
Yes.
But yes, I am available. Like different organizations have different problems. If some of those organizations think like some coordination problem they want to solve, I think like distributed networks could really help them. And I'm ready to help anyone.
And these are all, again, for the younger audience watching this. We've talked about the older guys and older women. I want you to tell us, the younger people should not be carried away with the investing scheme of this. But think of the technology and its benefits. Where do they start building? If they pick up resources, they have to go to YouTube or something. They have to go to Discord or something, or some community forum. Where should they start? Where would you start if you were this generation's 20-year-old? Where would you start?
I'll say I'll start with my friends, first of all. Like it's always fun. Like that's what people already do in colleges. If you were in your college, you might have built something like a festival. You organized a festival in your college with your friends. Did you ever feel like it's my job? Like I have to do it?
No, you felt part of a community. I played a lot of sports, so we organized a lot of sports stuff, and I did feel part of a community, of course, and we did it very efficiently.
So I think it starts with friends. Like start exploring things together where you already like the people. And together then you start finding out what do you care about, which problems do you care about, and join any communities. Like if you like Polygon, join Polygon Discord, talk about like, hey, how can I learn? I think the best part is everyone wants to help everyone. I think in generally, like I'm an optimist on humanity.
So you're right, look at the local, just understand yourself as a consumer and all the businesses around you. And then you can believe how you can scale ideas up, right? That's what you'd advise them?
Exactly, and that's how I build JediSwap. Like, what do I care about? I care about, I want to work on things I like doing. I want to work on time I prefer. I want to work from a place I like. So all of those are freedom I want to choose. And everyone wants the same thing.
Yeah, and be a Jedi on top of that. Don't be lazy, just sit at home. But you're being a Jedi.
Be ethical.
Be ethical,
Believe in the collective good.
Yes.
Learn the ways of the force.
It's interesting. So a lot of white papers, a lot of reading. Spend time with the right community. The community needs to be an embodiment of knowledge, right? And obviously you can go party and all that, but you can still have to do that. But then you're saying these are the steps you take as a 20-year-old and start building. Start building from scratch. But you started it very early, didn't you, doing this?
Yeah, I mean because I don't think it started from tech or anything for me. It started from fundamental understanding humans.
Did you come from a family of anthropologists?
Not really. Like I come from a tier 5, tier 4 city in India.
What did your parents do?
It's like a construction shop. We have a construction shop. We sell like bricks.
No wonder you have to understand.
We literally sell brick and mortar.
No, it's in you, man. I think a lot of people should create that body of knowledge of meeting people, understanding. I mean, these forums, I mean, I saw the community today. They've come in to see the fascination of Web3. But the fascination can last only if you understand the customer, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Or just humans, I'll call. Like, just understand the human in front of you.
Okay, I'm going to call him back again for more stuff because so much this man has in terms of knowledge. But I want to talk to you. I want to end the show by asking you, we're at Build for Web3, right? What does this conference mean to you?
Yeah, so I personally know the team of Build. I think like they are one of the most amazing team who are trying to push what I also believe in personally, like what Web3 means. They are also trying to push it in the way I think it should be pushed, like literally pushing decentralization on the coordination level. And I'm just thankful for them to hosting this and making more people aware about this.
And I think people watching this should realize, you write to me, I'll get him to answer. Of course, there's another podcast coming out soon with him. Rohit, you're amazing, but you have to tell us what are your favorite books at this point of time. What would you recommend them?
Oh, so I am reading this Ray Dalio's book right
Principles?
now. Principles, Changing the World.
They used a lot of tech, by the way.
Yeah, and in that, like, if you read that, you will also understand how changing the world order fits perfectly into Bitcoin or Ethereum. Like, what used to be everything moved to USD in the last World War or something, like it could be Bitcoin and Ethereum this cycle.
You know something on Principles? He's been gathering data from 1973 or something of that sort. And I think it was one of the only hedge funds that didn't get affected in the 2008 crisis. That's the power of data, right?
And other one probably Renaissance, which are very close source.
Which one is that, pardon?
Renaissance Technology.
Renaissance Technology. Is that something you'd recommend?
It's a hedge fund, like nobody knows anything what happens inside. It's only owned by the employees. It's a fund which have consistently generated 60% year-over-year return since 1990s or something like that.
And do they have white papers out?
They have everything closed source.
Oh, they don't know. Okay,
it's only employees. But it's a good way. Like it's owned by the employees.
Wow, man! What else do you read other than that? Anything else other than text?
I try to read on fictional books, non-fictional books. Like
anything now after Ray Dalio's book?
So I've been slow on my reading, but like Outliers was one of my favorite books.
Yes.
Thinking Fast and Slow has been like one of my favorite book.
So you're keeping busy, building a community.
I am reading more on crypto these days than like on
and
books.
You're reading crypto for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And building a community around the technology.
Yeah.
I salute you for making my interview so much more easier.
Thank you so much for having me, sir.
And I'll have you in my office soon for another podcast. Thank you very much, Rohit.
Thanks a lot.
So ladies and gentlemen, check out JediSwap, and the website is?
JediSwap.xyz. JADISWAP.xyz. And you can find me on my Twitter. It's IMR Goyal, GOYAL.
That's good. That's Rohit Goyal for you, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to do more with him. Watch out for this space. Thank you, Rohit.
Thanks again.
Thank you.